everybody. Well, happy Sunday. Hope you're having a great weekend and that you've had a nice week. It feels like it was so long ago that we recorded the last of these on Sundays, and it hasn't been that long. But I am Rachel Wagner. I'm here with Chris as we've done the last 7 weeks. Now we're on week 8 of Sunday Devotionals. And it's been crazy, but
that means you've been doing these devotionals for 9 weeks. And so we've been not having church and all this crazy stuff for at least 9 weeks now.
Over 2 months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I never would have, I don't know. I never would have thought, with no end in sight.
Yeah, I know. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there is some end in sight in some places. They actually just changed in Utah from it being the high priority to being the moderate. Like it went from like red to orange. There's some in house dining that's allowed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. I probably won't because of, my heart is still kind of, is in a precarious. I've got to be careful not to expose myself. But nevertheless, and I think gyms are starting to open.
Oh, wow.
So
I live in a small enough town that I think our town was 2 weeks behind everybody else. So we are where everybody was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel pretty confident here in Utah because we have done such a good job about testing people and our numbers have been really good. And so I think it's a reasonable step up.
Yeah.
For what's happening here. But, every place is different. So
it's true.
I don't know. It's
crazy times.
all of us are just kind of, I think probably like everybody's just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it will stick because we don't know. None of us have ever experienced this before. Even the scientists are all kind of, it's just speculation on the data of what you can, because you have to go back to 1918 to figure out any kind of pattern. Because there's a lot that's similar about now and 1918. Oh, gosh. 100 years difference. This is something we decided to do a couple months ago when church got canceled to try to give some spiritual nourishment to ourselves and to our friends. And it's been really good. I've really benefited from it all week long to be thinking about what we're going to say and what I think about a different topic. And in this week, I decided to talk about friendship, or we decided to talk about friendship. And it's something that I was definitely thinking a lot about after my health scare, because, it's just, it makes you think about who matters in your life. And it's been a long time since I've seen some of my friends, and that's hard for me. And so, but anyway, so I had a lot of things I was thinking about. And so I'm going to read this little talk that I wrote, this little sermon, and then we'll talk about it and we'll just have a discussion. So if you're listening, let us know what you think. And we'd love to bring you as part of the discussion. So here we go. Scripture tells us, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. This is perhaps surprising when you think about it, because it isn't family the ideal relationship. Shouldn't the ultimate love be what one might sacrifice for our families, not friendships? Now, that's not to say that our family can't also be our friends, but I find the distinction interesting. What is it about friendship that makes it an especially holy and valuable experience that God smiles upon so strongly? There are probably many answers, but I am inclined to think the main one is that friendship is completely voluntary. To a certain extent, we are required to at least tolerate those in our family. They are genetically linked to us, and at least until adulthood, dependent upon the goodwill of family for sustenance and survival. Rifts within family are especially devastating for this reason, but that's a topic for another discussion. A friend is a bond that is entirely optional. You have chosen to link yourself to another person, and all you get out of it is the benefit of having them in your life. Ecclesiastes 4:10 tells us, "For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe unto him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up." I think a lot of us single folks have felt the weight of this verse over the course of this pandemic. Sometimes the isolation and loneliness of solo quarantining can be overwhelming. If anything, it has certainly made me grateful for the opportunities I got to spend with my friends that I totally took for granted before. Certain experiences I even resented in the past, thinking, ugh, I've got to go do that activity, where now I would do anything to be able to do that activity with my friends. But on the flip side, the pandemic has reminded me of the great safety net of friendship I have to help me through tough times that exists online and other places. In my recent health scare, it was truly touching to see the sincere and heartfelt expressions of love and concern sent towards me by people from across the globe. I felt the many prayers offered in my behalf and was buoyed up by the words of encouragement. It can be easy to be cynical about the internet and social media these days, but with all its flaws, it can be a way of connecting us. Indeed, even just doing these devotionals with Chris every week has buoyed me up and been a powerful source of friendship when the two of us have never met in real life. How fortunate are we that in the time of isolation, we don't have to be actually isolated? What a gift that is. In a way, this time of social distancing can be a way to prove just how much we value human life and friendship. It's a task that has never been asked of mankind before. We cannot be with our friends, but we can pray for them. We cannot hug our friends, but we can video chat with them. We can't have them for dinner, but we can make sure they are getting fed spiritually. God commands us to love thy neighbor as thyself. Of course, this presumes we have a healthy self-esteem to begin with, and then can choose to reach out to those around us. This is the most special kind of love because it is the one thing that Jesus can't do. He needs our help to reach out and be a friend. He needs us to be his angels here on earth. And that is even more true in a time of crisis. The scriptures tell us that two are better than one. And as a single person, I can attest this to be true. Maintaining friendships is not always easy, and people can be difficult to love. But this time of isolation has taught me how worthwhile that effort is. I'm so grateful for my friends, and I have a renewed commitment to show that gratitude as much as possible. I believe God smiles down on friendship, and even though it can be hard, it is worth it. This week, let's try to reach out to those in our lives and build them up. Let them know how much they mean to us, and as we do, we will feel a renewed energy and spirit that comes from the love of a friend, a love we have chosen, and God loves when we choose to love. So that was my thoughts. But Chris, you've had a week to kind of think about this idea of friendship.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you thought about?
Well, it's just interesting because it's amazing how, like you said in your talk, that friends, they're like the family you choose.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I always kind of had a tight knit group of friends in high school and then had another group of friends in college. But it's amazing because like I'm still in touch with some of those friends. And so I had one college friend in particular who really helped me out. Like back in college, those were my single days. And, you know, there'd be those days I just get really depressed that I didn't have someone special in my life. But it was this friend that would come alongside me and be like, hey, don't change who you are because the right person will love you for who you are. And it's amazing how when you have those friends in your life, how they do prop you up and you prop them up. And it's amazing to have that friendship and relationship. And I remember I was looking at John 15:15 this week where Jesus said, I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I call you friends because I have made known to you everything I heard from my Father. And so when you brought up friendships, you know, I'm thinking about the close friendships I have in my life, but it's amazing that Jesus calls us friends, that we didn't choose him, but he chose us. And that deeper line there, I love because, you know, he says, we're not servants, we're friends. So I've made known to you everything I heard from my Father. And so this friendship with God that we cultivate is amazing because I can remember spring 2007 when I was still living in Columbus, Ohio, only just graduated college and I was driving to work And it was one of those rare spring days in Ohio. Like, you could actually tell that the sky is blue. There was this strange yellow orb in the sky that we Ohioans don't see, that sometimes reminds us we live on a sphere that orbits around this ball of fire. And it's this ball of fire that gives us light, because it's always cloudy, rainy, or snowy in Ohio. And so it was one of those very rare, beautiful spring mornings. And as I was driving, I was just kind of praying, and I was like, thank you, God, for such a beautiful spring day. And I'm telling you, it was like a thought that came up in my mind, but it came up so strong. It was more than just me. And I don't know if you've ever had an experience like this, but it was crazy. This thought just bubbled up, and it said, too bad it's your last spring in Ohio, right? And from that April to that August, things began to fall together in ways I couldn't have fathomed to move to California. And I was terrified. And one of the reasons I was terrified to move was because of my group of friends. Like, to leave that group of friends was going to be one of the hardest things I'd ever had to do. But with this friendship with God, I felt the call that it was time. And as much as I wanted to resist it a little bit, I just knew it was time. And then I moved. And it's amazing how God provides when we take those steps of faith. I mean, within 3 months, I met the woman who is now my wife, and which brought a whole new family all around me. And, they're in-laws. So in a sense, they're family because I didn't choose them, but at the same time, I am really good friends with those in-laws. So it's like I did choose them. And so it's like this whole new support system. And now this YouTube group that I have, Rachel, I've never met you, but I consider you one of my close friends, which is one of those crazy things about technology and what we do. And so it's amazing. We have those close friends in our lives. And then when we cultivate that friendship with God, even though in that friendship, God might ask us to do something that's a little scary, it's amazing how God provides.
Yeah, I think there's so much truth to that. I call those moments of clarity.
Yes.
And it's just like, boom, okay, that's what I need to do.
Yep. Yes. And that's what that spring was for me of, April 2007. I'll never forget it. It was just so clear what I needed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are some of the sweet moments of life. And I guess I was feeling a little bit sad this week, just in the sense that, that my friends, one friend in particular, my friend Jen, who I would see multiple times a week, we would go to all the screenings together. I haven't seen her since February.
Oh, wow.
Because it was actually because she was, I don't know if she was sick or she had work stuff or whatever, but she couldn't make it to the last screening in March. Maybe I saw her at the very beginning of March, maybe, but I was just like, it's been so long, and I just felt lonely for my friends, and I miss my friends, and so that's what kind of made me, like, I just kept thinking, like, what is it that I can do now that I can be a good friend to something, and then it feels so limited,
Yeah.
But then I also was thinking about another friend of mine who I have become pretty close with through doing podcasts, and just how she sent me some messages about after I had my diagnosis, and she'd had high blood pressure problems herself, and so we were going back and forth, and she seemed so genuinely concerned about me and worried about me, and I don't know, it was such an interesting contrast where it's like this season of life, I have to show my friendship to Jen in this particular way, and yet here I have this other relationship that's maybe even stronger because of this time,
Yeah.
and it just kind of made me feel like, okay, everything's gonna be okay, and God has control of everything, and everybody, we're all just trying to do our best to show everybody that we love them, and that's how we can be the best of friends, is just making the best of the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will make sense, but it was just
because
such
it's
a
amazing
contrast
how
to me.
crisis and these in weird seasons like this can show who friends are.
Yeah.
I think last week I shared a little bit about when my sister was in a coma. And so week one that she was in a coma, I had only been living in California probably about 6 months. And so I came home for about 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, man, I mean, you see your friends, and I couldn't believe it. Like, my friends took time out of their jobs, out of their days. Like, my Ohio friends who I hadn't seen in a while at the time, they were there with me in the hospital lobby and everything. And now here we are talking about friends, and I'm going, wait, when was the last time I Skyped those friends? As we're sitting here talking about it, and I'm feeling like that stab of conviction myself. And it's like, what an amazing gift that we have from God to be able to have this with other people and have those friendships. And maybe seasons like this will teach us to value that more.
Yeah, and I think at least in my faith sometimes, because we value family so much and we believe in eternal families and that bond is forever.
Yeah.
And we emphasize that so much that I think sometimes we almost forget the importance of friendship.
Yeah.
And that is something that was really important to Jesus. I mean, it can't be denied. He spent almost all his time with his friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he spent more time with his friends than with his mother.
Yes, he did.
If you were going to, and so it was very, very important to him. And he made sure that his friends were taken care of. He made sure that he mourned with them when they mourned. He took time to teach them, especially Peter. And I think that it's something that we can kind of be like, oh, those are just my girlfriends for going to the mall or whatever. There's something like, we can kind of like, oh, it doesn't really matter. And I mean, I had a roommate who her attitude was very much like, these people are just here for this time in my life, and that, that was it. And it's like, sure, yeah, things change and you have different times in your life.
Yep.
But I feel like that's a mistake to just kind of assume that any people in your life are sort of dispensable or disposable, or just, I think that you never know what kind of real difference that you can make. And I guess that's what I was thinking about this week, that like this season, while I do miss spending time with my friends, it's a special season to bond in a new way and to be a friend in a new way, and to make sure that everybody is okay and taken care of. And I really think that if we can choose that God will help us to be a friend in this time.
Yeah.
He'll help expand whatever efforts that we can make to make them more. And I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about, that because sometimes it can feel a little out of our control.
Yeah.
As far as does this person want to be friends with me?
Yes, it does. Yes.
You're just sort of friends with the people who will be friends with you.
Yeah.
But I think if we try to look at people the way that God looks at people, then I think we'll be blessed.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. Yeah, because it's hard, because like, and that's the difference between when you make that good friend and you have those lousy friends, because the Bible talks about that too,
Job.
But like in college, I just felt so blessed because I met those good friends who were just encouraging in those ways that I needed at that time. And now that I think about it, I'm like, gosh, I hope I returned that. I hope I was just as encouraging to them as they were to me. And so it's like, it's amazing that when you have those friends in your life that maybe we take it for granted, and maybe it just becomes such a normal part of our life that, we just don't even realize how close friends we've become. And hopefully seasons like this just remind us how precious that is.
Yeah. Well, I'd be really curious. The whole reason I wanted to do this Sunday devotionals was to help my friends get some spiritual nourishment, since we weren't going to have church, and myself as well.
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear from the listeners what experiences you've had with friendship, whether challenges or and how you overcome those challenges, and how this experience has changed you and your ideas on friendship. I would really, really be interested to know how that's felt. It's an interesting thing because I really feel like that I am more spiritually sort of in a better spiritual place than I was the same time last year, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Considering what happened. But I don't know. I just feel like I've had to work harder at it. I've had to try harder at it. And I feel like I'm stronger as a result.
Yeah. Well, one thing I hope, like, you know, especially as we say we believe in Jesus, I hope during this time of COVID-19 that this would be a time that we really do try to cultivate that friendship with Jesus deeper.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, we don't have sports to distract us and, you know, I mean, we still have shows and stuff to binge, but nonetheless, a lot of distractions are gone now.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, you're in a better place now spiritually than you were a year ago. And it's like, that'd be great if all of us can say that by the end of COVID-19. And instead of this being such a bad pandemic, I mean, let's turn it around and cultivate that friendship with God, which I know is different because, you know, I'm talking to you and you're talking right back. And God, it's a bit different, but it doesn't change the fact that he wants to be our friend and that he calls us friend. And who knows what can happen when we take this time and cultivate that friendship with God. Jesus said, I don't call you servants. I call you friends. I let you know what my Father is doing. I mean, how great is that to be in that kind of know?
Well, and even to use the greater love hath no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. That's Jesus.
Yeah.
He laid down his life for his friends. We are his friends, and he did that for us. And so I think that's a very good point. And I've always felt like that the easiest answer to a prayer is to ask Heavenly Father if you were loved. He will answer that prayer. I really believe that. And I think a variation on that question is, are you his friend? And it's the same. It's the same thing. And I think that is definitely hopefully something we can kind of take away from this whole experience, because it is very lonely, and I've definitely had my lonely moments. There's no doubt about it, and I will continue to. But we've got to at the same time take those moments and then remember how loved we really are, and how we can be a better friend, because it is possible.
Did you see the Mr. Rogers movie with Tom Hanks?
Yes.
I think probably the most powerful scene in that movie is where he's in the diner with that guy and he says, can we just take a full minute and think about the people that have loved us into being? And the fact that the movie literally took a moment, and then Tom Hanks looks right at the camera, looks right at you like, are you thinking about it? But when we take those moments and do exercises like that, it's powerful to realize how much love is in our lives.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very, very much. I think this was really good. And like I said, I would love to hear the thoughts of the listeners of the ways that your friendships have been strengthened, some what you've learned about friendship during this time. Please share in the comments or on Twitter. We would love to hear that. And so, Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me here on YouTube. Just search Durbania. I'm the one and only channel that'll pop up. And I do movie reviews. And the thing I've been emphasizing a lot now is just my theological analyses, finding that encouragement in those movies and sharing that encouragement during this time. I just dropped a super long video for the final book in the Chronicles of Narnia. And so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So make sure to check that out and other cool things I got.
That's great. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also you can find me at the Hallmarkies Podcast. And we have basically been posting every day on Hallmarkies Podcast. So it's been great. And so
there's a friendship you've been getting closer there. Yeah.
My friends and I have, and it's been so much fun. And so definitely check that out. I think you'll really enjoy it. There's a lot of content, even for people that don't watch Hallmark movies, honestly, on there. It's a lot of fun. So that'll all be in the description section. So please make sure to check that out. And if you have any topic ideas or things that you would like us to cover in these Sunday devotionals, please share in the comments section. We can really use your thoughts. And and thanks again so much. And we'll talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Yep.